All right, cloud and APIs. Rob, take it away.
Okay, so one of the big successes, I think, of this last couple of months was cloud, right? So we were able to do a lot from home because we had our applications running in the cloud. And we talked earlier about over the top. That's basically everything cloud. It's running everywhere. Innovation also deployed or enabled by APIs. We touched on that as well. It's important to make combinations, and it helps if applications are running in the cloud and can be combined with APIs, etc. And now, the interesting question, of course, is when you mesh basically applications like that by combining bits and pieces from everybody that are running everywhere, a phone system from one company and maybe an office suite from another company and maybe some specific components from other companies again. It's great for your innovation and you can build more bespoke applications quickly. But now, of course, the question becomes, who controls it? What about governance? Who's responsible if things don't work? Where do you turn to? So the poll question that we have is related to that. Who's going to build in this new era of agility and innovation? Who's going to build these applications? Is that going to be the big five, or the 5 for 5, as you like to call them, Charles? Is it going to be specialized integrators, value-add resellers, maybe telcos? Or is it basically going to be every one of us? Are we going to make it so simple to put these bits and pieces together that everybody will be building their own application in the future? That's the poll for this segment.
Yeah. Okay, and we have a new guest, Raoul. Can you hear me, Raoul?
Yes, sir.
Where are you calling from, sir?
I'm outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay, Raoul Castanon. I mean, talk a little bit about cloud and APIs. What are we talking about? What's the significance for business?
Sure, thank you. So I think I'll probably just repeat some of the trends that Mark and the other panelists have been talking about. It's very interesting for me to see the impact of the coronavirus on how we work. And I think, like others have mentioned, we're actually seeing an acceleration of trends that were already building up. And a lot of these trends are under that big umbrella of cloud and APIs. The one thing that I could add to what's already been said is that this is a different way of managing business. It's a different model. So Rob was just bringing up the point, who will be building this new world? I think that system integrators, channel partners, technology companies, telecoms, they all have a role to play in this new world. And we will see a migration to this business and technology model that is facilitated by the cloud and APIs.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll switch to Frank briefly. He mentioned APIs, and I mentioned it as well. Just for the folks who have no clue what they're talking about, what is an API?
Yeah. Well, API, literally, it's an application programming interface, but that's a technical term. So that's like the plug into applications to access data or functionality that is in it. Well, it can be anything. Like, okay, if you cadastre, which holds the information for
the public information about
all real
property
estate
and stuff
in the Netherlands. Yes. So they have this information, and of course there's an application for people to access that information, but there's also like this secret plug into it where you can, from another application, just retrieve that information directly. If you say, okay, I want to know the owner of this property on this location, for example. These kind of things, and you see that everywhere.
You disclose information, because I remember,
Absolutely, yes.
you know, you couldn't look up stuff. You had to go to a building and pay a couple of guilders back then, and then you got the information you need. And now it's just, you know, digital.
And then, of course, you've got Google, but that can find words or things that are already on a website. But everything that is enclosed into applications needs to be released, needs to be opened up, so to say, through APIs. And the interesting thing about APIs is that they are no longer just a technical plug, but they are like, well, the access point of the business value of a lot of organizations. I think Stijn is an example where your company says, okay, we've got functionality that is actually, aggregated from different companies, but you expose the business value that you provide to your customers through this API. Yeah. So then you have B2B value chains that plug into each other through these APIs.
I mean, you work a lot with APIs, Stijn, right?
Well, I was talking about Spain specifically as an example. We have a business there that is more than 70% of the revenue does not come through the user interfaces that we've built there, but they come through other applications user interfaces, so Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, and our system is used in the background, but it's integrated through APIs into their system. So for us, we get a lot of money from the customer or a reasonable amount of money from the customer for delivering value, but it's going first through other people's systems, and that's only possible with an open API ecosystem.
Yeah. Give me one example of a business model you really like that's totally dependent on APIs.
Oh, wow. Okay, so basically these last few weeks, how many times does it happen that your phone starts ringing while you're in a Zoom call or a WebEx or whatever? What would be ideal is that if the network, in the general sense, understands in what kind of a state I am and whether or not to disturb me with a call, for instance. That would be something that adds value if you can do it broad enough.
Sounds like an app.
Absolutely. Well, yes and no.
Yeah. What's your favorite example?
My favorite example is Uber, and I get to use this because I know one of the public affairs guys from Uber. It shows the tremendous innovation power of cloud. We tend to forget. We think of cloud as renting somebody else's computer, but Forbes said 10 years ago, cloud is going to be the biggest disruption ever. And if you look at Uber, simply how it works, you can change the world literally from behind your screen, sitting in your basement.
With existing technology,
existing
by
technology, have an API,
Yeah.
have maps, have communication services, have a payment gateway interface, have a marketplace interface to phones. You blend it
same with Airbnb, right?
Airbnb, you blend it and you can disrupt the world, and create something new that sets existing business upside down.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting and exciting that anybody will be able to do this. It's not big corporations that can come up with a new kind of business proposition or a new service. It's anybody that can click together.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. But of course, there's a lot of tricky points because these APIs, they are very promising, but to actually make them work together, it's tricky. Because the information, how it comes out there, doesn't fit in there. And you have the security, because these are vulnerable.
It's like different plugs in your, whatever.
Absolutely, but these are also very interesting points for hackers to access the same functionality and data that is so valuable. Is also valuable, of course, for hackers. And where in the past maybe, okay, I'm going to steal somebody's username and password. Well, now they will go directly into all the information if they manage to hack these APIs.
Hey Raoul, give us one brilliant business model nobody thought of when it comes to use of APIs.
I was going to say Uber, but somebody already used that one.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sorry for that.
I could just add quickly to that, that what I have found very useful in that example is how it brings together the demand side and the supply side in real time. And I think that's the model that everyone will start emulating. For that matter, the company behind that huge success with Uber, which is Twilio, they were early innovators in terms of bringing the platform model and APIs to telecommunications. And if you look closely at how they do everything, the entire business is based on this platform model. So that could be my favorite example.
Yeah, Okay. Let me look at one example of a company that uses API's in a very smart way. A Dutch company, Boels.
Ik kan het natuurlijk niet laten. Ik ben hier vandaag bij Boels en ik heb een gesprek met Robert van de telecomafdeling. En hij heeft een heel mooi verhaal volgens mij over hun smart communications en wat zij de afgelopen tijd daarmee gedaan hebben en de voordelen daarvan.
4 jaar geleden hebben we eigenlijk besloten om van een decentrale oplossing een centrale oplossing te maken binnen ons telefonieplatform. Ons grootste probleem was de verschillende providers in de Europese landen. En daar was bij OneCentral één groot Europees platform de uitkomst voor centralisatie.
Over hoeveel vestigingen hebben we het?
Wij spreken in principe over 19 landen en we hebben momenteel 800 vestigingen binnen Europa.
Een paar maanden geleden is COVID. Wat gebeurt er dan?
Het eerste wat wij gedaan hebben is natuurlijk alle mensen die thuis konden werken 100% thuis te laten werken. En toen kwam het op een gegeven moment, wat gaan wij doen met onze vestigingen? Wij hadden te maken met verschillende regelgevingen in diverse landen. In Nederland hadden we een intelligente lockdown, daar hebben we niet veel gemerkt van COVID. Maar in België bijvoorbeeld een totale lockdown. Daar gingen vestigingen moesten gewoon dicht. Dus toen moesten we iets gaan doen met de bereikbaarheid terwijl de vestigingen dicht waren.
En hoe hebben jullie dat gedaan?
Wij hebben dat in principe geregeld door heel eenvoudig, boven onze telefooncentrale zit een schil. Dat is zeg maar het platform van OneCentral. En daar konden we redelijk, met een paar drukken op de knop, konden wij eigenlijk de hele callflow konden wij sturen op die plekken waar we dat graag zouden willen hebben.
Dus met 1 druk op de knop was eigenlijk alles geregeld.
Wat betreft de inkomende gesprekken was het zo simpel.
This is a great example, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very useful.
Yeah. Very quick innovation, very quick way of changing ways by very simple means that are readily available in which you can create some new applications and new usage types. I think that's the future of innovation. It's called permissionless innovation. You can start today, you can easily step up.
And you don't have to be big, you don't have to be,
Absolutely
you can just
and
do it.
even for companies with no strong IT background, such as Boels, it lowers the threshold. You can pull out your credit card. You can start with very little investment. You can start to innovate.
We're talking about small innovative companies. This is a question from Harm Overgoor. And he says, are the speakers not afraid that once a software application developer grows big, it will be swallowed up by one of the big 5, killing the potential of more competition? That's a fair question, right?
Absolutely. That's definitely a risk I see, and it's something that's more general, right? I mean, we see all of these the big 4, 5, whatever you want to call them. They definitely have an incentive to buy these types of solutions, and I think that new solutions will arise. I mean, APIs democratize these kinds of developments, and that's where the value is.
You have to look at innovation as a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
At the end of the conveyor belt, big ones will scoop up companies that grow. But on the other end of the conveyor belt, new startups and new initiatives keep appearing because the innovation is so easy to do. You can always start. So I'm not afraid of that.
Finally, for your role, how big is the risk that these big guys are, basically eating up these small innovative companies and maybe stifling innovation?
I think it's something that we see all the time, and it is something that I could be worried about. I do think I have seen in my line of work many startups with really creative ideas and get swallowed by large companies, and then they kind of fizzle out. So I do think that question brings up a really good and valid point. On the other hand, you also see a lot of the innovation coming from these startups. So I think that's something that will continue. It's not going to end, but there's always that risk that they will be swallowed and stifle innovation.
It sounds like there's some API going on that demolishes buildings on your end. It's
Working from home, that's one of the challenges, yeah.
Yeah, I won't go there. Thank you so much. I have one final question real quick for you, Frank. Hans Tochtema, is it expected that an all-encompassing software package like WeChat in China will make APIs less relevant? That's a good question.
No, I think that something like WeChat relies on APIs. So it plugs in all kinds of new functionalities through APIs. So it doesn't make them less relevant. It actually enables these kind of things.
Okay. Final subject. We go to what's called CPaaS, which is Communication Platform as a Service.